So welcome everybody to our September Denver Tug event. This is our planned content. So if you've been here before, you know that every other month we do a community forum where we have a guest moderator come in and answer questions. And then every other month we do planned content where we have planned speakers, and it's a bit more of a formal structure. Our agenda today, we have a little bit of housekeeping, and then Keith Dykstra from Interworks will be presenting on UX tips for better Tableau dashboards. And then we have two solution engineers from Tableau going over Tableau CRM. These times may not shake out exactly like that. We may have some time for networking questions at the end, but if not, we'll have a lot of great content. A couple of housekeeping items. Contact info for us. Mary and Greg are both not here today, and so I am the only tug leader here, but if you ever need to get in touch with us, these are our email addresses. We'll post this slide deck into the community forum page, so if you need to get in touch with us, you can go in there, find our contact info, and feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions. Our Denver Tug Community Forum page, if you are not a member, this is where we'll announce all of our events. We have all of our links and recordings up here. So we realized last month that some people were just forwarded the event page URLs and they were never actually part of this page. So make sure that you join this. It's just a nice way to stay connected. And you can also post job postings in here if you're hiring or if you know someone who's hiring, ideally for a Tableau related position, but it doesn't need to be Tableau completely specific. Feel free to post your job postings and any other important links and stuff in here. Our social links, you can follow us on Twitter or in this LinkedIn group. Admittedly, we haven't been very active on Twitter, and the Denver, Colorado Tableau user group LinkedIn page is actually a couple of user groups. It's not just ours, but I think we're the most active. So if you request to join, there's a lot of job postings and stuff that go on in here, and I can approve you if you put in your request because it's a private page. Some upcoming events. Friday, October 1st, we'll have a community forum. Our guest moderator, we're still looking for someone for that. If you're interested in moderating that and you were here last month, you saw Erin, she was a really great guest moderator. We would love to have you. Feel free just to reach out. November, really exciting. We have Kevin Flerlogel of the Flerlogel twins on Tableau tips and Tableau tipping and tips you never saw coming. He's a really great speaker, and he's going to be our only speaker in November. So the full hour and a half will be dedicated to him. And then in December, we're thinking of having an in-person holiday party that may or may not be December 3rd. We can be flexible with that date, but hopefully we'll be having something in person. Wanted to plug Tableau conference. It's going to be November 9th through 12th. It's totally virtual this year, and it's totally free. If you're wondering why should I attend, just a couple of reasons. Learn a ton, some cool networking opportunities. You can see the pros battle it out in Iron Viz. Hopefully next year we'll go back to in-person Tableau conference, but while it's virtual, it makes it a lot easier for everybody to attend. And you can register at this link. And honestly, if you just go to tableau.com, you'll be able to find it. So definitely recommend registering. And we may wind up doing like a brain date with our Tableau user group. We're still trying to figure that out, but that'll be like a cool networking opportunity for our user group. If you're interested in speaking or presenting, please go to this link and just fill out the form. We would love to have you. You can really present on anything Tableau related. You don't need to be an expert. If you just want to kind of sharpen up your public speaking skills, this is a really great low pressure way to do that. And we would love to have you. So if you want to brainstorm ideas, feel free to reach out to us, just submit that form and we will get in touch with you. And last, we're curious if anyone is interested in attending an in-person holiday party or networking night in December in lieu of our regular meeting. So I am going to, I thought I knew how to do a poll, but I may not actually know how to do a poll. So Kelly, if you're still on and you can do that, I don't think I actually know how to do that.
Hi, yes. Would you like to make me the co-host?
Yeah. Thank you. And you can just use these options. I can't tell if it's working. Oh, perfect.
Did it pop up?
Yes, I see it. Everyone, you should be able to see it. If you can't for some reason, put your answer in the chat, but this will just let us collect the data a bit easier than if everyone is over text.
Oh, I can see all of the results coming.
Yeah, I love it. I like to see it like moving. Okay, I think it shows 100% answered, 32 out of 32, but there's 42 here. Okay, we'll give it a couple more seconds. And if anyone has a location in mind that you think would be good for an in-person event, please let me know either over the chat or at my email, because we will need to do like a little bit of planning for that. So if you have like a like your office you think would be good for it, definitely feel free to shoot us an email with that. Since we'll have to start planning that here pretty soon, and totally understand there's a lot of uncertainty around COVID. So we're not going to like hold you to your answers of yes or no, but we just want to use this to get a general gauge of roughly how many people we can expect to see. So this is perfect. I imagine I'm going to get these results, but just in case, I'm going to take a quick screenshot.
Yes, Caitlin, I can send you the results after.
Oh, okay.
And it looks like we're waiting on about 9 more people, but I believe you have the option to end the poll yourself.
I think we can end it. If no one else wants to answer, you can also answer over the chat. It looks like we're at about 40% yes, 43% unsure, and 17% no. So we will check in again on this next month at our October event, and likely again in November, and see how these numbers are changing. We can't really do something informal like a park because December could be pretty cold. So we will do our best to get a place locked in with these answers in mind. So thank you all so much for answering. Okay. I will end the poll. Perfect. So with all of that, I will turn it over to Keith for UX tips for better Tableau dashboards. And I will stop sharing, and Keith, you are welcome to take it over.
Great. Thanks for having me, everyone. Excited to talk to you about some UX tips that I've been using a lot over the last year. So I'll get the boring stuff out of the way before we dive into the content. A little bit of background about me. I actually used to be a middle school math teacher, so you can see a picture of me there in the middle with some of my former students. Outside of doing data stuff, I spent a lot of time cooking, making cocktails, and I formerly served on the board of Viz for Social Good. I just finished up my second term there, but Viz for Social Good is a great organization if you're interested in doing data viz for a nonprofit or just want to help advance a good cause through your skills. Check their website out. They're always looking for people that can use their skills. Another fun fact about me, I am unusually tall, so a lot of pictures of me turn out looking like this, where everyone is perfectly framed except for me. I'm 6 feet 7 inches tall, so you can't really tell that in a virtual setting, but fun fact. So what I'm going to share with you today is some tips that I've been using to make dashboards that are really easy to use and enjoyable for users. And I wanted to start with an example of something that's not necessarily the greatest user experience. So some colleagues of mine actually put together this data story at the beginning of the year. We took data from people that worked for Interworks, and we took a look at their Spotify Wrapped data to see what kind of music people listen to and what was the music that we all enjoyed together. We actually built a section where there's a carousel section so you can advance to see some different data stories about songs that connected us across the globe, despite the fact that COVID made it really challenging to get together. But if you look closely at that section, you'll notice that this button actually requires you to click it twice in order to advance to the next story. I've run into this issue in other places as well. So I was building a dashboard for a client where I had a resources tab and it linked them to some documentation about how to use the dashboard. And when a user was testing it, they said, hey, I clicked the button and nothing happened. And they also said it was really difficult to read as well. So if you can see at the bottom, there's a black outline around that image. And it makes it really difficult to see that. And if you've used Tableau for a while, you probably understand what's going on here. It's actually quite intentional. There's a lot of places where it makes sense, but here's a place where it just doesn't quite work. Now, here's an example of where that default behavior in Tableau does make sense. This is another dashboard that I created. And if you click on a sector or an account executive, Tableau highlights your selection and it's visually telling you you've selected a subset of the data. You're not looking at the whole data set right now. So it's a really great behavior to indicate to the users that they have actively selected something and they need to deselect that to get back to the full data set. So it makes a lot of sense there, but it doesn't make sense here. And there's actually a UX principle behind why it doesn't make sense here. That UX principle is called Jacob's Law. Jacob's Law says that users spend most of their time on other sites or using other apps or using other dashboards. And so they expect your site or your app or your dashboard to work like other things do. And so when we try to create a button in Tableau, the default behavior of holding that selection and visually indicating you've selected something and you have to deselect it doesn't quite make sense because users would expect that to work with one click like it does in most other apps and websites. So that issues like that led me to create this very generic Tableau dashboard template. I did this earlier this year and I worked in a couple of interesting UX tips in it. And I want to share a couple of those tips with you today. Before I get to those tips, I just want to give a little bit of credit to, first of all, Giga Tarmashvili. Giga is a designer, and I found some of Giga's work on the Muesli blog, which is a great source of inspiration for UX and UI content. So I stole some of the look and feel from this example from Giga. I also found a couple of tips and tricks from working with Morgan Reeder, who's a Tableau developer who works at the Oregon Child Integrated Dataset. So we worked together with Morgan to produce a couple of dashboards. If you go to the OCID website, you'll see a few of the things we created together. And a few of the things that I'll show off today come from some of the things that Morgan taught me. So the tips I'm going to share today are about KPI placement, interactive sidebars, auto deselect hacks, invisible buttons, and what I think is one of the most efficient ways to train users about your dashboard. So we'll start with my argument for KPIs on the side. If you were to Google standard Tableau dashboard layout, you'd see a lot of stuff that looks like this, KPIs on the top and some charts underneath it. It's a very common layout, and I won't say that it's wrong. A lot of times it actually works really well. But there are some times when it doesn't quite work well. So here's a really old dashboard that Tableau used to ship with the product. It might still come with it, but you may have seen this before. If you view this on a widescreen monitor, what I notice first is this map in the center, but the next thing that my eyes are drawn to are these big gaping holes on either side of that map. I think white space is great in dashboards. It's a really helpful way to focus users' attention, but in this particular instance, I think it can be used slightly better. So when I'm looking to upscale or to make a dashboard look better, to try to use the space more efficiently, I'll often go to websites that I use and try to steal some cues from those websites. So HBR is a website that I've been reading quite a bit of lately. And if you look at the HBR website, you'll notice they often have content in the middle, and then there's a sidebar on the right. And that sidebar has links to other articles, other areas of the site. It's a very common layout in websites. We see this on ESPN's website as well. There's main content in the middle, and there are sidebars on both the left and the right-hand side that lead you to other places. So sometimes when I have a dashboard with a standard layout, I put my KPIs across the top, and I've got my charts underneath it. If those charts are looking like they're kind of squished together, you can see those line charts are really small, and it's hard to see the variance over time in them. Sometimes a simple shift of the content can actually make that content work a lot better. So I've just simply placed the KPIs on the left-hand side, moved the charts over to the right, and now they have a little bit more space to shine. Now, on its own, that's just really kind of an aesthetic choice. Where do you want to place your KPIs? And by the way, this works great if you're producing dashboards for a widescreen. The rules are completely different if you're doing something for mobile. But when we combine it with the second tip, interactive sidebars, I think this can actually be more than just an aesthetic decision. So I mentioned that on HBR's website, that sidebar serves as a link to other areas of the website. And we can actually accomplish something quite similar with Tableau. So in the example that I'm going to walk through, those KPIs on the left-hand side, as you click on them, they actually change the charts on the right-hand side. So as you dig into or focus on one KPI, you can get some more information underneath those metrics. What is the trend over time? What are the outliers on that scatter plot? And as a quick sidebar, in general, I'm trying to do more of this stuff with my KPIs recently, because I don't think it's very helpful to present a KPI like this. Great, the sales are 2,317,000, but what does that mean? Is that a good number? Is that a bad number? Are we going up? Are we going down? Lately, I've been trying to layer in a lot more information to give give a richer experience to users and tell them more about those KPIs. So here's an example. I've got a KPI at the top that shows our ticket count is up 6.6%. But I'm showing you as well, like the raw numbers underneath it from this year and last year and the trend over time. We can see 6.6% is definitely an improvement, but not nearly as well as we were doing in March and in April. For places like this, we can say, well, our budget, we've spent $2.3 million. But we can also tell people, oh, and that's 55% of our total, 3.9 million, and layer in a distribution to show some of the different members that are contributing to that spending. So I went ahead and did something similar in this dashboard. Again, I said that as you click on those KPIs, the charts are changing on the right-hand side to provide some more information about it. And I'll walk you through the steps that are required to set that up. So if you've been working in Tableau for a while, you're probably familiar with this classic parameter that drives a metric swap. So on the left-hand side of my screen, I've set up a parameter. It's just an integer parameter with 4 values, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then on the right-hand side, I wrote a case statement connected to that parameter. And what that case statement does is as the parameter value changes from 1 to 2 and to 3 and to 4, it chooses a different metric to display. So when that parameter is set to 1, it shows tourism inbound. When it's set to 2, it shows tourism outbound. And it can also show mobile phone usage or internet usage when the parameter is set to 3 or 4. Once you've got that set up, all you need to do is drop those values 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your different KPI cards. I've just written an ad hoc calculation, min 1, min 2, and I dropped those on the level of detail for each of those different KPIs. With those values, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on detail, we can reference them in a dashboard action. And if you're using, I think it's 2019.2 when Tableau released parameter actions, if you're using anything after that, you can set up a parameter action. And essentially what we're doing there is telling Tableau, when a user selects that first KPI, target that parameter, the metric parameter, and change its value to 1. And then similarly, if they click on the second KPI, we're going to change the value of that parameter to 2. Clicking on the third KPI changes it to 3. The fourth KPI changes it to 4. If you're lost a little bit, I'll show you how it all comes together. And also I've written a blog about this so you can get more detailed information if you want. But we can see here, I've revealed that parameter value in the top right corner. As it's changing from 3 to 4 and then back to 1 and 2, that parameter value drives the metrics that are shown on the charts. And so as we're clicking different KPIs, we're getting different metrics that can give us some additional context about what those numbers mean. It also works great with sheet swapping. So if you need to have a bar chart or a scatter plot or a global map, you can do that as well with parameter actions just to show and hide different sheets as users click on different icons. So let me pause there and see if there are any questions so far. I know I've gone a little bit quickly. And again, if you're looking for more information about this, if you just go to interworks.com/blog, I've written a blog post about all these 5 tips that I'm going to share that walks through each of them step by step. But I'll pause really quickly to see if there's any questions that have come in so far.
None in the chat yet, but if anyone would like to drop them either into the chat or come off of mute, you're welcome to.
Well, feel free to interrupt you along the way. If there's not any immediate questions, I'll go on to tips 3 through 5. So my third tip is about auto deselect hacks. And this is one that's become a favorite of mine. I mentioned at the beginning that this button, you have to click it twice unless you do some extra work in Tableau. And it's a little bit annoying to me because it's just not what users expect. Last summer, I actually did an internal course for Interworks about good dashboard design, and I took some cues from other designers as well. So here's Dieter Rams. He's a very famous product designer. And Dieter said that good design is unobtrusive. And I think that's one of the reasons that I don't like that button, is because it does feel sort of obtrusive. It kind of gets in the way. It's not an experience that you would expect, that you'd have to click it twice. Andy Kirk, who's quite literally written the book on data visualization, says it another way. He says that good design achieves a certain invisibility. So if you're using a really well-designed dashboard, you're just immersed in the flow of that data, and you never have any jarring experiences that you don't expect. So good design can solve this problem. We can actually eliminate that double clicking and make a single click produce the action that we want to every single time. And in the template that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, I use this same technique to build a custom filter user interface. If you look closely again, you'll see by default, you have to click that thing twice in order to show and hide the menu. But this trick will help you to be able to use it with one click. A helpful aside, this tip can also help you eliminate those pesky borders. So again, I mentioned that Tableau likes to indicate to you what your active selection is. And this tip that I'll share can eliminate those as well. So originally I was using a 3-step solution that came from Luke Stanke. He works over at Tessellation, which is another data consulting agency. And Luke shared this tip that he had actually found from a guy named Yuri Fall, who had posted it on the Tableau forums. So I think Yuri gets the original credit, but Luke wrote a blog to make Yuri's tip really public. What I discovered is that Luke and Yuri's tip, which takes 3 steps, can actually be simplified to 2 steps. And I figured that out by working with Morgan Reeder. So here's the 2-step solution. All you need to do is write a field for true. It's the true function. I wrote another field for false, the false function, and I placed those true and false fields on the level of detail of my KPIs. With those 2 fields, true and false, on the level of detail, if you just set up a simple dashboard filter action, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but I know that it works. What you do is you tell Tableau, when a user clicks on that first KPI, you want to target that sheet directly, that KPI sheet. And in the target fields, you want to specify that you want to use the true field to target the false fields. What that essentially does is it forces Tableau to automatically deselect itself. So again, if you look closely at those KPIs, you'll notice that as the user clicks them, or as they click that drop-down filter, they just have to click it one time. And as soon as they click those KPIs, there's a border that drops. So if you don't have this enabled, that border would stay on around those KPIs. And again, you'd have to click that drop-down menu twice in order to show it, to actively deselect what you've selected before. But that dashboard action basically tells Tableau deselect itself immediately so that you never have to deal with that double clicking. If you're wondering about the difference between the 3-step approach and the 2-step approach, it's very small, but it has tripped me up in the past, so I'll just call out really quickly. On the left-hand side, you want to make sure that you target your sheets directly, rather than on the right-hand side, choosing that sheet through the checkboxes. If you set it up the way I've showed you on the right, there's a 3rd step that you need. And so just targeting that sheet directly rather than choosing it through the checkboxes will eliminate that 3rd step. One other hack that I have used a few times, and it seems a little bit silly, but I've actually been using invisible buttons. So I'll tell you the reason why. Here's a dashboard that I created for a client. This is their homepage where the users were allowed to select some different filters. And then each of those buttons at the bottom for sites and for studies and for principal investigators takes them to a different place in dashboard. So I essentially wanted to use those buttons as navigation buttons. But if you look closely, you can see the sites button has a number 64, and that number changes as the users change their filters at the top. And so I couldn't use a static image and a navigation button because I wanted that image to update as users were making different filter selections. So what I ended up doing is I laid a floating horizontal container on top of those buttons. And within that horizontal layout container, I actually dropped 3 different navigation buttons. And then for the navigation buttons, when I went to assign an image, I actually assigned a blank rectangle. If you've never created a blank rectangle before, all you have to do is go to PowerPoint, draw a rectangle, take off the border and the shading, and then save it as an image. You have a completely transparent image that you can put on top of something. And that image is then connected to the navigation. And so what ends up happening is users click on what looks like that sites button or that studies button or the principal investigators button. But what they're actually clicking on is an invisible rectangle that's laying on top of the sheet behind it that shows how many sites or studies or principal investigators there are. It seems a little bit silly, but I've ended up using this in a number of different places. So I just wanted to share it in case it's a helpful tip for you as well. I'll also add that I had one client that I was building a dashboard for, and they were very annoyed by the fact that when you hovered over certain things, they looked fuzzy. And a lot of times we'll lay a blank image, just like a blank object on top of those things. But if you need those images to be connected to a dashboard action or a navigation action, this trick can actually help you as well there. The 5th tip that I'll share, and this is my final one, I think is one of the most efficient ways to train users. So I've gone back and forth with a lot of different clients about, well, how do we want to make sure users understand how to use a dashboard? A lot of times they want to layer a ton of additional instructions on a dashboard, and I tell them, the more that we put on, the less likely people are to actually read anything. So one way that I've ended up finding a way to layer in additional information without cluttering the interface is to use show and hide containers. So if you look closely at this GIF, clicking that question mark will reveal some tips for the users about how to use this dashboard. And then they can just clear those tips when they're ready to use the dashboard by clicking that X icon. It's a pretty simple process to set up, but I would definitely recommend waiting to do it until you're totally done with your dashboard. The process that you need to do to set this up just involves first exporting an image of your dashboard. I just dumped it into PowerPoint. I often use that to do some simple image manipulation. So I exported in an image, and then I added some transparency, a transparent rectangle to it, just to dim that background so that you can see things on top of the dashboard. After I added that transparent image, I just use a combination of shapes and text boxes to indicate to users what things were important to them, how they could use certain things, or what actions were available to them. Then you just want to delete that background image so you don't bring that back into your dashboard. And then you'll just group all of the things that are left. So all of your instructions and your transparent overlay, group it together, save it as an image. Then you can add an image, you can add that image to a layout container. If you just float it over the top of your dashboard, adding a show hide button will then allow you to very easily show and hide those instructions. So I just use an intuitive icon, that question mark, to indicate to users if you're not sure what to do, click up here. It lays some information over the dashboard so users are really clear about what they can do with the dashboard. And then as soon as they're ready to move on, they can just click that X and use the dashboard as usual. So those are a few tips that I just wanted to share with you. I will just wrap up by adding one additional disclaimer. A question that I get a lot is like, is it really worth the extra effort to do these small tweaks to your dashboard? Like, how do you actually know if the juice is worth the squeeze? I will say that there's another UX principle that comes into play here. It's called the aesthetic usability effect. And it says that users perceive aesthetically pleasing design as more usable. So there is a perceived functional impact of taking the time to make your dashboard look and work really well. I would also say I do a little bit of math and try to figure out how long is this change going to take me and how much time is it going to save my users. So if you think about 15 minutes of work, that's only 900 seconds. And if you save users 1 second by doing a change like this, if 100 users use that dashboard and they look at it 10 times, collectively, you saved your organization more time than it was worth to implement that change. So sometimes I just use that kind of simple rule to decide if it's worth the effort to do something. If only 2 people are going to look at the dashboard and they know how to use Tableau, I'm not going to bother to eliminate that double clicking. I'll just say, just double click the button and it'll work. But other times it does make sense. But do keep in mind, often the simplest dashboards are the best dashboards. So be careful not to layer your dashboards up with too many hacks like this, because it can make them pretty hard to manage going forward. So I'll pause there and just see if there are other questions. If there's anything that you guys want to ask, feel free to post it in the chat or come off mute and let me know. If you're interested in more tips like this, I've just got some basic information up here about our Interworks blog. I post a lot of stuff to that with helpful tips. I also am pretty active on Twitter, so I'll share tips there if you're interested in more tips like this as well.
We had a couple of comments while you were going through that I'll just read out. Marie Pierre said, these are really great tips. I can use them immediately. And Casey Berger said, I've been using Tableau for 5 years and the export to PowerPoint to create the layover is mind-blowing to me. I also second that. I love that feature. I'm going to use that just because it will speed things up so much instead of doing individual tips, which I've done that require separate sheets and it's a huge pain. I love that show hide tip. Does anyone else have any questions for Keith?
If not, you can also feel free just to post in chat and I'll monitor the chat while our next presenters talk, and happy to respond over chat as well. But thanks again for having me and letting me share these tips with you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Keith. With that, I will turn it over to Jordan and Casey from Tableau to talk about Tableau CRM.
Thank you, Caitlin, and thanks, Keith. That was great to get to sit in on view, honestly. So meet Tableau CRM. Hello, Denver Tableau user group. Quick agenda here. You've heard about the new kid on the block, but now get ready to answer what the heck is Tableau CRM. We'll start with some introductions, what Tableau CRM is, a quick differentiator of what is different from Tableau, and then Casey will run through an interactive demo, and we'll also hold Q&A at the end. So hello, my name is Jordan Bethea. I'm an associate solution engineer here at Tableau. I've only been here a few months, but I've been part of the greater community for a little over 3 years now. I used to consult military clients on how to use Tableau to empower data-driven decisions and help implement it across enterprises. And Casey, I will kick this over to you.
Thanks, Jordan. So I am Casey Berger, and I've been at Tableau, excuse me, for 5 years. And so I am a senior solution engineer here, worked with our biggest retail customer and hundreds of smaller customers. And I've been out of the Austin office all 5 of those years. And I do remember we've done a lot for the Denver Tug team. You guys are plenty active, so love to see it. Happy to be here. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah. So quickly in the chat, do we have any Tableau CRM users already?
Is anybody a Salesforce CRM user? Yeah.
All right. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So when we were acquired by Salesforce, they consolidated all the analytics products that they offer under the Tableau brand name. So we adopted the formerly Einstein Analytics, now known as Tableau CRM. And so the main thing to note when thinking about Tableau CRM is the end users live in Salesforce. Tableau Vanilla is going to be great for all users across your enterprise, but for the ones that live in Salesforce, Tableau CRM is going to be a really great fit. And so what is it? It's going to be the analytics layer on top of, sorry, there is a child outside yelling and it distracted me for a second. Perks of working from home. But it's going to be the analytics layer on top of your Salesforce instance, and it's going to bring together both business intelligence and artificial intelligence all within the Salesforce organization. And so this is a complete analytics platform. It's built right into your Salesforce instance. and it's going to be native. It's super intelligent. So Einstein Discovery is going to help you make smarter decisions using transparent AI-powered predictions and recommendations. And because it's native to Salesforce, all the insights get infused to every business process. You can analyze data from any source. And so it's also going to help you streamline your analytics stack. It's going to bring together, when you have like 5 tabs open all into one, you don't need to use Python or R because it's going to be right inside your Salesforce instance. And these are the 4 main differentiators of Tableau CRM: being native to Salesforce, intelligence everywhere, and high performance data platform. And it's going to help you get started fast because we have built-in templated analytics. So right out of the box, you're going to be able to get started. But it's also super flexible. So same drag and drop functionality that you're used to with Tableau. And you're going to be able to use this across pretty much every industry. So sales, service, financial services, manufacturing, healthcare, consumer goods, and more. And not only does Einstein Discovery live in Tableau CRM, but we also now have an extension to both in Tableau. So you can plug it into Prep or Tableau Desktop or your online or server instance. And this is going to get you trusted predictions and recommendations anywhere you are. And so with that, I will kick it over to Casey for the interactive demo.
Thanks, Jordan. While I share my screen, please don't forget to drop into the chat if you have any questions. I know we've been hammering that all day, but really want some feedback on that. I want to take a chance to ask the group again one more time. Do we have any Salesforce CRM users or current Tableau CRM users in the Denver group today? Maybe if I can get 1 or 2 no's in there, make sure the chat thing's working, that'd be awesome. Cool, thanks, Caitlin. So fantastic, sounds like this will be new for everybody. So I'm gonna take my time, go nice and slow. Feel free to interrupt me with questions here. But what I'm sharing now is a Salesforce Lightning instance with Tableau CRM enabled, which gives us access to a few different analytics tools. What we're looking at here is a slightly customized version of an out-of-the-box template. And what I'm doing here is I've got my KPIs on the left, like Keith was talking about today. We've got our sales target across the top. And then I'm bringing in external data from outside of my Salesforce instance here. And this is about the only thing that's customized compared to the out-of-the-box version. So you can bring external data from your SQL Server or wherever it is into the Tableau or into the Salesforce ecosystem. And I will be showing how to do that today in a second. Then we can see our entire pipeline by either stage or forecast. And then the real kind of special sauce here is this Einstein Discovery window. So what Einstein is doing here is it's predicting the days over close date that these opportunities are actually going to close. So I'm going to go ahead and filter to the next 90 days. Go ahead and take a look at my upcoming quarter. And it looks like the most egregious example is this NI Source deal. It's a pretty big deal, 230K, and it's going to be 72 days late. That's almost an entire quarter. Excuse me. So that's definitely a point of concern for me. I can leverage Tableau CRM's action framework to take action on that immediately. I found an insight. Actually, Einstein pointed something out for me, and now I can take action on it immediately. So if I was this sales rep, I could come in and just update that opportunity and just change the close date, but push it out 72 days. I know from experience, the sales managers don't love that. So we could also, come in here and schedule a meeting or do a lot of other ready to go tasks in this action framework. For today, I'm just going to open up this record and do a little bit more investigation. And so this is a shared demo org. Let me reset it real quick. So opening up that opportunity, I can see that Amanda is the owner. We're still bringing in some Net Promoter Score external data here to give additional context into the deal. And then the Einstein predictions window on the right side here is giving me a lot of information that I guess I wouldn't have without it. You know, it's doing a cohort analysis on different fields within our Salesforce environment. And then it's also giving me suggestions on how to improve that time to close. And so this is an automated data model that works because of how structured Salesforce's underlying data is. And then you can actually bring in, like I've been talking about, your external data, and Einstein will still bring those columns into its cohort analysis. And so we'll be touching on that towards the end of this demo. But taking a look at what Einstein is telling me here, it's letting me know that because this opportunity came from one of our resellers, it's probably going to take an extra couple of weeks to close. It's also suggesting that I can knock almost 3 weeks off of this deal cycle by scheduling an executive meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and reach out, you know, let's put myself in Amanda's shoes. I went ahead and called and got the executive to agree to a meeting next week. And so now that I've updated that opportunity, Einstein has taken that into consideration. And now we're going to expect that deal to close a little bit closer to that predicted close date. Now, one thing that happened automatically when I set that meeting was we have a process built out in Process Builder to automatically chatter the executive sponsor of these opportunities if the expected close date drops. And so when Amanda set that meeting, Valerie automatically got notified in chatter, and a request for her to attend that meeting was automatically generated. Okay, so we've talked about the action framework. We've talked about bringing your data into kind of a one-stop shop. Let's take a look at what some of the canned dashboards or one of the template dashboards look like here. So I'll touch just briefly on what it looks like for sales reps, and then I'm going to move over to sales managers. But if an individual sales rep is using TCRM, they're going to get a great quota dashboard here. You can obviously use the filters to kind of narrow down and see how you're performing. The other thing we can look at is our trending. And so we can tell kind of what deals are coming in and out of our pipeline. And then finally, we get a white space dashboard that makes it really easy for me to see which opportunities I might be able to focus on to bring in more revenue next quarter. So I'm going to go in a little bit more depth for the sales managers because they're just a little bit more complicated than the sales reps. So for the sales managers dashboards, we get a nice leaderboard. This shows me all of my team, how they're doing to plan, maybe gives me some insight into coaching opportunities. I can see the open pipe versus closed pipe, filter that appropriately. I also have the trending dashboard. And so I'll take a pause here. As a sales manager, the things that probably keep me up at night is going to be this bar right here. You know, we've got all this coming into our pipeline, all of this leaving our pipeline. These are the closed won opportunities, the closed lost opportunities. This moved out column, those are the deals that we either don't know what's happening in them or the close date is pushed out in the next quarter. Those are the deals that will help me make my number and that I can actually control. And so selecting that bar is going to give me a nice list of all the opportunities that contribute to that $38 million. And then I could ask Kristen to come in here and set a meeting with Clear Channel. And maybe we're going to talk about discounting this $800,000 a bit to bring that deal back into this quarter and get it back into this column. So none of that had anything to do with Einstein predictions. That's ready to go out of the box with just the TCRM middle license. But let's take a look at the white space dashboard for the sales leaders. So similar to those sales reps, this just takes into account deals for the entire team. I can see that we've got a lot of revenue in New York and California right now, and I can scroll through my open opportunities and kind of see who they're with and what product family they're in. I'll go ahead and focus on California today. And there's an Einstein Discovery module on this dashboard that is focused on average days, the number of average days that are added to a deal and what's impacting that. So I know this is really small text for y'all. This says region is Pacific and lead source is telesales. So Einstein is saying for the deals in California, that's obviously in the Pacific region. And if the opportunity lead source came from our telesales team, it's actually going to add an average of 18 days onto the deal cycle. So maybe those telesales leads aren't quite as qualified as the outbound traffic that we're bringing in, or the outbound opportunities that our sales team is bringing in. The second bar here is what I want to focus on today. It's saying that if an opportunity is in the Pacific and it's against our competitor Moparts, that's going to add roughly 15 days. So I think that gives me something to start on. I want to start maybe a compete campaign against Moparts, that competitor. So I selected that bar, and Einstein go ahead and created a list for me of all of the opportunities that are competing against Moparts in the Pacific. And I can just go ahead and drop these into a campaign. And my marketing team, or perhaps my Salesforce admin, has already set up maybe a campaign in Pardot, or perhaps Outreach. I love the name of this though. It's No Parts campaign and competing against Moparts. I just think that's cute. But I can, drop all of those opportunities into a drip campaign that'll run until the end of the month or whatever I specify. And so all I have to do is click create campaign, and I'll drop all of these contacts and accounts into there. Okay. So we've seen a little bit about how Einstein can help you focus on, bringing in revenue faster. Let's go ahead and talk about how we bring in that external data that might not already live in Salesforce, and what that looks like. So if you were to purchase Tableau CRM or any of Salesforce's analytics products, you'll get a new application in your in your Salesforce environment called Analytics Studio. And so within Analytics Studio, you'll also have something called Data Manager. From within the Analytics Studio in Salesforce, you can not only bring in static data sources, just like CSVs, structured flat files, you can also set up data flows where those data sources are combined, and you can even throw in predictions onto that data flow to have a more purpose-built kind of monolithic data source, which you can connect to a purpose-built dashboard. So if I were to bring in new data, I can just go up here in my Analytics Studio, and I've got a few options on how we want to structure that. So dashboard is pretty self-explanatory here. You can start with a blank dashboard or those hundreds of templates we were talking about. We can also create a story, and you can think of this as just a new prediction that you want Einstein to focus on. So if I want to create a new story, we'll go ahead and create it from a data set in my organization, or that's already in Salesforce rather. We'll focus on opportunities today. And here's where we're prompted to basically tell Einstein what to focus on. So I want to focus on our opportunity score. There it is. And so you'll be able to maximize or minimize a coefficient or a cohort that you want Einstein to focus on. So maybe we want to maximize that opportunity score, and then I can continue on setting up that story. And then Einstein is going to basically create a new column in my data that scores all of my opportunities and tries to surface the ones that have that best score based on all my historical data. That probably sounded a little fluffy, and I know that you're just gonna have to trust me that all this works out of the box. It just works on your Salesforce model. Now, of course, the more historical data you have, the smarter those predictions will be, and technically the more accurate they'll be. But you don't have to customize the model to get great predictions out of the box. Bigger organizations or more complex organizations might want to spend some extra time bringing in a partner or developing a more focused model, but it's not necessary for most of the customers that I work with. Okay, and the last thing we're going to talk about is bringing in a data set. So we'll choose data set here, and of course we can bring in a flat file. We can bring in Salesforce data from, there's a couple customers that I work with that have multiple Salesforce deployments. So you can bring data from another one, or perhaps a parent and a child company. That's a really good use case. But we're going to just choose external data right now. So this has brought me into the data manager, and here's where I was talking about those flows. So if I click on data, this is the way to just pull in flat files, right? So your JSONs, your CSVs, your Excel files, you can just drop them right here, and it'll materialize that entire thing as a data source within Salesforce. No bells and whistles there, it just brings the data in directly. For the data flows and recipes, hopefully I can find a good one here. Yeah, maximize customer revenue data flow. So this is an example of what a data flow looks like. I will walk you through this really quickly, but the result is this is going to give us a focus on the deals that we've already won, and then how we can leverage that relationship or the deals that we've already won into more revenue. So the first thing Salesforce is doing here is it's taking our leads and it's filtering out the nulls, and then it's going to bring in some account, record, and opportunity data. And then it's going to filter to only the won opportunities. And then it aggregates that data, joins in some product data as well. And we bring in our opportunity lineage data, which gives us past opportunities. And then a little bit of data cleaning happens, a couple joins to set up those relationships. And then it writes out to this data source, which we can then leverage to include in a prediction or into that dashboard. Notice right here that there is an Einstein predictions node. So we can drop that node anywhere in here if we wanted Einstein to score something as part of that flow. And these flows will happen on a regular basis. So you can schedule them to reach out to that source data, combine that with external data, and create a curated data set. The last thing that I have prepared today to talk to you about is this Connect tab. So here's where we'll connect to other databases, data marts, data warehouses. You'll notice some big names as I scroll through these connectors. But if we want to add a new connection, we can just hit that plus, and then this will let us download the drivers necessary to connect to these data marts. So hopefully you see a couple that you use on a regular basis. If not, you can always use like an ODBC driver to get that data into Salesforce. But once that data is here under your data sets, then it's in your Salesforce environment, and you can leverage Einstein and bring it into those dashboards. So that is, in a nutshell, everything that Tableau CRM can do for you. I guess I'll wrap it up one more time here and say the big four that Jordan had on that last slide were, it brings all your data into one place, kind of central stop. It's native within Salesforce, so you don't have to have a bunch of different applications open. Your sales people, which are usually the target people that are in Salesforce all day, will benefit from these predictions. And the final thing, Jordan, help me out, I'm blanking. What's the final one? Oh, it's out of the box templates. It's ready to go. You don't have to do quite as much development work as you do in Tableau to set up these dashboards. You can just turn Tableau CRM on in your deployment. And after a little while of turning through your data, the model is ready to go. So I will turn it back over to Caitlin, and I guess I'll maintain sharing my screen here. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Can you drop it in the chat?
A question. I'm curious, does this integrate at all with Tableau server? So like, would you be able to see these dashboards like in your server instance, or is it like fully in Salesforce?
It's a great question, Caitlin. We have something called the Lightning Viz web component. And this was released middle of last year. It's totally free, but for those Salesforce customers that want to bring Tableau visualizations into their Salesforce deployment, this is what you would use. And so an example of that is here with a Tableau visualization embedded in the Salesforce Lightning page.
Oh, cool.
The flip side of that, if I want this dashboard, can I pull this into Tableau server? No, I cannot do that. But I can have this little Einstein predictions window inside a Tableau visualization. So let's do Einstein Discover in Tableau. There is a Einstein Discovery Insights basically widget that just drops into your Tableau dashboard. It looks like this. So this is a Tableau dashboard with a very similar window to what we saw in the right side of that opportunity here. So the exact same backend that powers this will power this module on your dashboard. And so if I'm in, hopefully I have desktop open, I do not. If I am in Tableau Online, and actually, you know, I don't think I have Einstein Discovery turned on for this one, but we'll find out in a hot second here. So if I wanted to add an Einstein Discovery module to this dashboard, I basically just come in and click on this extension and I drag the extension in. And this will prompt me to authenticate into our Salesforce environment, which will then let me hook in Einstein Discovery. And so I would just click add to dashboard. It's going to download it, and then it'll have me log in. And then I can drop that Einstein Discovery pane wherever I want on the dashboard. For those of us that may be admins in the room, on the back end, the data is essentially packaged into a vector, encrypted, and then it's sent out to Einstein. Einstein does its predictions, packages it, encrypts it, sends it back to Tableau. And so all your traffic that goes back to that Salesforce server is encrypted and protected. And then finally, let's say that this is the dashboard that we wanted to embed inside of our Lightning environment. I think I can show that today too. So we probably all know where the embed code, oops, did not mean to click edit. We probably know where to find the embed code in a dashboard, right? We just go to the share button and then we can copy this link. That URL is all you'll need to then come in and drop it into a Lightning page in Salesforce. So let me log into one of my many Salesforce environments here. Launch. Well, here we go. A little bit off of our agenda today, but as long as we have time, Caitlin, let me know if we're still good.
We have time. And someone else had a question in the chat. Maybe you can just answer quickly. Can you provide examples where you would want to use native Tableau versus creating dashboards via Tableau CRM?
Fantastic. Absolutely. It's pretty cut and dry, Denise. If you have the majority of your analytics users inside of Salesforce to do their job, then that's a really good fit for Tableau CRM. If you need analytics outside of Salesforce for all users in your department or organization, that's a great use case for Tableau Vanilla. Tableau CRM on a license for license basis is going to be a little bit more expensive than Tableau Vanilla. And so the biggest use cases that I see are analytics for your sales team. And you've got maybe like a call center type thing, or you've got a very kind of transactional sale. Those predictions can be really important for SDRs or new salespeople to help them focus on the right deals. I've seen Einstein predictions also be rolled out to the marketing team as well as HR. And so kind of in combination, you saw how I dropped some of those Mopart's competitor opportunities. We dropped those into a marketing campaign. Similar collaboration happens between marketing and sales just on deal strategy. So Tableau CRM is analytics for your CRM, for your Salesforce users. It's a bit of a more narrow scope, but the tools that come with it help you get started faster and save you time, because man, when I was an individual contributor sales rep, I had to manage at one point in my career, I had 5,000 accounts. And it's just like, okay, where do I start? You know, if you want me to build an Excel sheet and analyze the annual revenue of the last, 100 accounts, a one person can't manage 5,000 accounts. So that's where machine learning comes in, and it can help you focus on the top 10 or top 100 accounts for that month. So great question, Denise. I hope that helped. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so I just got authenticated into my environment. Let's see if I can remember how to drop a Tableau dashboard into Salesforce. I'm going to steal this one. Oh, maybe. So I want to just copy this link. And when I'm in my Lightning environment, we just need to go up to the edit and then setup. Okay, so that's not quite it. I need to find a Lightning page that I want to embed this into. So that's my first step. So let's go to our sales app. Here we go. So we'll go to our sales app, and the sales homepage might already have one embedded on it. If anything, I'll just delete it. Yep, there it is. So if I wanted to add another one, let's just add another one. We'll go up to setup. Aha, there it is. We don't click setup. We actually go down to edit page. And in editing the page, now we're in our Lightning app builder. We can just go ahead and search for Tableau. This Tableau visualization, again, starts with the free download. I got a big old window in the way. I can't select. You just go to the Salesforce website here. I guess this is on the Tableau website. And you'll download the Lightning Biz web connector. It's a free download. And then it'll just have you authenticate into your Salesforce environment, and it'll download directly to your Salesforce environment. If I remember correctly, you do have to be a Salesforce admin in order to download that add-in. But once it's downloaded, it'll show up here, and we can just drag it in, supposedly. Here we go. And so now I have a new target for my Tableau dashboard. This is just a standard placeholder dashboard. I'm not sure why it chooses that URL every time, but I'll go ahead and paste the URL that I just showed you in my Tableau Online site. We've got a couple different radio buttons here to choose if you want it tabular across the top for the different sheets, or if you just want the one sheet that was shown when you copied that link. You can also choose whether you want the Tableau toolbar. So if you want people to be able to share, edit, other things could be convenient to have within the Salesforce environment, so they don't have to go back to Tableau. You can choose the height. This is a pixel height. And so this will be pixel for pixel, the exact same it is in Tableau. So if you have a 900 pixel height dashboard, just go ahead and throw 900 in there. Otherwise, it'll auto scale to whatever size the box it's in. And then we can have this automatically filtered. So where this becomes really powerful is, let's say you build out a revenue dashboard for your entire organization. You're going to want to, instead of editing the homepage like I'm doing now, you want to go to the account page, and you just drop that revenue dashboard into the account page. Then you can go to these filters, and you can start to connect your Tableau alias for that field to whatever the Salesforce alias is for that field. So I would basically just come in here, select one of my variables on the Salesforce side, tie that into my Tableau variable, and then set a starting value if necessary. And what that will do is, when you click on an account page, for example, Tableau, instead of showing your revenue for Tableau, Apple, Facebook, Google, it'll only show you the Tableau results, because it will pick up that account name from Salesforce and it will pass that to the Tableau dashboard. Tableau server will automatically filter to just that account name. So pretty slick, pretty easy to set up. And then you just hit save, and then you're ready to go. It should take me back to the home page. And so now I've got an automatically filtering, completely interactable dashboard. The filters still work. If I had the ribbon on the bottom, I could export the data even. So, so that's option A, is Tableau dashboards in your Salesforce Lightning environment is essentially free. If you have both of those licenses, you can do that today. Tableau CRM is Einstein predictions inside your CRM. And then you can, if you're an Einstein predictions customer, you can bring that Einstein module into a Tableau dashboard. So all of them require both Tableau and Salesforce licensing. This way does not require the Einstein licensing, which is an additional cost on top of the basic CRM license. All right, I've been talking for a while. I'd love to just see in the chat if that was interesting to people, or if I lost some people. Did it make sense? I know that we don't have a lot of Salesforce CRM customers on the line. So yeah, any feedback, please drop it in the chat now, because that's pretty much everything that I prepared. Thanks, Denise. Cool. Well, Caitlin, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Casey. We have a little bit of time left before the 4:30 wrap time. Does anyone have any questions for me, for Casey, for Keith, just anything in general?
They're like, it's Friday afternoon. I got stuff to do. I want to go home.
Yeah, happy to wrap early if you guys don't have any questions. I'll give it another minute. The only thing I see in the chat is George saying we hear quite a bit about Salesforce, but never had a chance to see it before. If you guys like Salesforce content, we can definitely have Tableau folks come back in the future to talk about it. So feel free to shoot me an email with any feedback and anything else you guys would like to see. I'll drop my email in the chat if you'd like to reach out. And otherwise, thank you so much to our presenters for talking to us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks again, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Have a good one.